It's Sunday, September 21st. The fall is beginning, and well, you know what this all means, people. It's time we gotta review something. Man, September 21st. What are we gonna do this time? Wait, what happened to my studio? Hold on. Let's lift this up and I'll see what happened to the studio, right? Hey! Where's Shadow? Why does my display look so different? What the heck is going on here? Why are all my figures moved? Wait a minute. Hold that thought. What would it... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, right. September 21st. I know what this means. It's time to do Halloween Horror Movie Review 6. And what are we going to start with? Let's see. Oh, there's already a DVD on my chair. Scary movie. Thought these were comedies. All four of them for the first week? Guess that's it.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, say that thou art High King of heaven, thou art.
Hey, wanna play hide and clap?
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and welcome to Halloween Horror Movie Review Season 6. I am here with Episode 1 of this series, and to kick off Season 6, we're ironically going to be starting off with a more comedy horror series. A parody series that kickstarted in 2000. And this was a parody of a film that was a parody of horror films in a way. And that is going to be for the parody of Scream in 2000. The one that started a downgraded franchise, but that was directed and created by the Wayans brothers. Keenan Ivory Wayans and starring Sean and Marlon Wayans. And that was for 2000's Scary Movie. And that's going to be our very first episode. And yeah, as you can all see, for Halloween Horror 6, this whole background is going to be different. Right here. So you got all the figures right there. Some of them may be a little hard to see, but that's alright, I guess. But yeah, the horror figs will be the background figs. The posters will remain the same. Elm Street is now there. Oh yeah, you got Jigsaw and I think that one's Amanda. Right next to reviews and reactions, sign. Yeah, we're doing quite a few horror films. The first 4 episodes are going to be all 4 scary movies, and then we're going to move on to the 2 Conjuring films for episodes 5 and 6 for the first week. So this is kind of beginning on a Sunday because we got 6 films to review this week. So we got some films planned down. Some we're going to stream. Some we own and will watch. So let's get started with the first episode. What is the plot of Scary Movie 1? So, this film focuses on, like Scream, focuses on a group of teenagers, including Cindy Campbell, played by Anna Faris, and Bobby Prince, who accidentally hit a man when driving and dispose of the body, but they're being stalked by a recognizable masked killer. The victim count increases, and Cindy has to survive the carnage that she has seen in so many films before. Yeah, so as for my reaction, While this was technically the start of the soon-to-be Seltzer shit parody films that killed the parody genre, this was one of those ish, thankfully not done by them. And back when, during the last few years, when parody was still fresh-ish, this was a film that parodied a lot of popular horror films that came out around the time this had come out. Those films were Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, which were very popular horror films around the time this had come out. And ironically, Scream itself was kind of a parody of horror films, despite still being a horror film. How is Scary Movie 1? So, I would say the first film in the series is enjoyable. It's not one of the best comedies or parodies of all time, but it's an enjoyable parody horror flick. And I would say the first of only two good films in this series, because, well, the thing is that I know that Scary Movie 2 is hated by almost everybody, but some of you are going to be a little surprised to hear my thoughts about that one in my review for that film. But we're going to be reviewing the first film. So how was Scary Movie 1 made? So the screenplay was developed by Sean Wayans and Marlon Wayans with Buddy Johnson and Phil Bowman, writers for the sitcom The Wayans Brothers. At the same time, Miramax was developing a spoof of Scream that was scripted by Seltzer Freeberg. But due to a WA decision, all 6 writers were credited despite Seltzer Freeberg not working on the film's script. Thank fuck they did not. Because you want to know something? The film would have been shit. It would have been fucking crap if those idiots touched it. It would be fucking garbage. Cause anytime Seltzer Freeberg did a parody movie, date movie, crap. Epic movie, crap. Meet the Spartans, crap. Disaster movie, ultra mega goddamn crap in a dumpster fire. What else can I think of? Oh, Vampires Suck, crap. The Starving Games, crap. And of course, when this came to Anna Faris got the role, came out around the time Anna Faris had graduated from the University of Washington and was going to travel to London, but went to Los Angeles after meeting with some managers and auditioned for the film, and this was her first acting job. Keenan Ivory Wayans had rejected many other actresses, but was willing to take a chance on Faris despite her lack of experience because of her performance. Because he thought that she had this natural innocence and was actually funny for the role. When it came to the role, Drew Decker, Jenny McCarthy, and Melissa Joan Hart had auditioned, but Carmen Electra was cast. So, after the film was officially, and the movie was filmed August 16th, 1999 to October 18th, 1999, and most of the time it was in BC. And as you all know, it's not really just a parody of horror films, it's a parody of multiple genres, including the horror slasher mystery film genres. Well, the parodies of other films are minor. Most of the time they're actually parodying horror films. There are several 90s films, and TV shows are spoofed or referenced. And the script follows the plot of slasher films Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. What they do parody in the movie, they parody Halloween, they parody The Shining, they parody Friday the 13th. They have parodies of Usual Suspects, which is minor. It's not one of the more major parodies like some later parody films would do. The Sixth Sense, The Blair Witch Project, The Matrix, once again, a minor reference. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So after Scary Movie was officially shot and completed, Miramax Films would release Scary Movie under their label Dimension Films in the United States on July 7th, 2000. And the craziest thing is, while this got mixed reviews, this was a massively shocking big hit at the box office. It earned over $270 million worldwide on a budget of $19 million. And it's still the highest grossing film of the series, and it was even the 9th highest grossing film of the year 2000 domestically in the United States. And it spawned several sequels. It spawned Scary Movie 3 the next year, and spawned 3 more movies. Spawned 3 more movies after Scary Movie 2. Scary Movie 3 is not good. Scary Movie 4 is worse. Scary Movie 5, fuck no. I don't want to talk about Scary Movie 5. This is my worst of Scary Movie 5. Yeah. I think all of you are waiting for my rant on that one. My rant is going to be fire. God, that film's going to have me raging. like a sailor. Because that's one of the worst fucking comedies of all time. Three, as sucky as 3 and 4 are, I would rather be forced to sit through those two than 5 any goddamn day. Or any Seltzer Freeberg film. I'll admit that. So, what are the good qualities in the story of Scary Movie 1? So, the movie works surprisingly well. All the movies that have parodies are structured together in a decent way that makes sense within the movie's logic. The end twists are surprisingly well executed, and the humor is pretty hit or miss, but it doesn't over rely on shock humor, I guess. So some of the shock humor is a little gross, but there's a few funny background gags as well. And that's the thing, when you spoof some of the biggest films of the last few years at the time this had come out, you always should know what you're trying to do. Make sure you have a funny idea. Say something intelligent. Because like audiences like or something that they've already done and know, like what you're kind of putting on film. Right there. Like many remember like back when these guys were relatively new, there would be some hecklers of their franchises, Michael, Jason, and Freddy, about how slow they would walk. Some would even make comments of how it would rain whenever someone would run around certain films, so make a film that pokes fun at these films, and not an afternoon excursion. Take the time, energy, and research. And of course, know what you're doing if you're parodying horror films. Not only is Scary Movie actually pretty much intelligent, let's look at scary movies over the last 10 years back when this had come out, it's intelligent in many of its other jokes. Like, there's nothing too much about this effort at all, and Scary Movie has a joke. Scary Movie does have a joke in every scene in the film because, well, it is a parody. So it's going to have a joke in almost every other scene. Some of them aren't going to work, but some of them do. And this film's not only funny, but it does kind of feel smart. It's like, remember in Scream? Like, you kind of know, like, stuff in kind of Scream. Well, they kind of do that stuff here, too. And of course, like, the impression of Dewey, the impression of Dewey, that would not sit well with today's crowd. That would easily offend today's crowd, but back then, nobody was offended at everything. The impression of Dewey there was priceless. And of course, like, Sean Wayans near the end of the film does this good Matthew Lillard impression right there. And like, heck, even almost spit this word out of the camera. Like, there's many great moments of similarity here. They know the films that are being parodied. Like, right there. Like, this was back when parody films weren't trying to parody everything that was relatively popular. Like, many films tried to copy this film, and they did not work because they were unfunny, they were insulting, they were honestly horrific, even. Oh man, like, back then, like, now, this movie was no Naked Gun or Austin Powers or Airplane or Spaceballs, which were way better parody, which I think are much better parody films than this film, but this still had a pretty sharp, entertaining plot, and it was still pretty silly. At the very least, it wasn't trying to be like those, like 3 and 4 are. Like, 3 and 4 badly try to be like stuff like Airplane and Naked Gun. This and 2 at least try to be their own thing. So, how do we start off the movie? So, we start off with a parody of the opening scene of Scream. And you know something. This actually is funny. This is actually a pretty funny way to start off the film. This takes place Halloween night. And Drew Decker is receiving this threatening phone call while home alone, like Drew Barrymore's character in Scream did. You all remember that. Except this time right here, you get a few funny references right at this bit. How does this go? So, y'all know, like, Drew Decker is popping popcorn, getting ready to watch a horror film. She mentions this horror film with Shaquille O'Neal and Ghostface, and parody Ghostface like, that's a horror film? Like, sure. And then, of course, parody Ghostface says the line, because I want to know what I'm looking at. What? Nice. Thingies. What are your insight? Turn to the other page. And it turns out he's reading a Playboy magazine. And then, of course, you get the boyfriend bit. And it turns out, I think it's a Michael Jackson reference. That's not my boyfriend. Yeah, I may have screwed him a few times. Yeah, like this actually had me laughing as soon as it starts. Like, this is funny. And then, of course, check the back door. And then, of course, the popcorn's like going this ball up, and at first, like, there's this doorbell. She thinks it's the Ghostface killer, but accidentally beats up some trick-or-treaters. And then the actual parody Ghostface then shows up. Then this parody, she sees these weapons, picks a few of them, but then runs outside. One sign says danger, one sign says safety. She runs for the safety sign, purposely trips, and there's a little line area there. Then of course the Ghostface parody accidentally like rips off her clothes, and then she runs and her bump is through these sprinklers, stops to shower, but then keeps running when the killer catches up. But then the Ghostface killer stabs her in here and then removes one of her implants and like and she doesn't die for the Ghostface killer. She dies because she gets hit by a car that's run by her own dad, who's in the middle of, well... And of course, she looks at her murderer before she then gets fatally stabbed by the Ghostface killer. This is a good way to start this off. This is classic. So, then we meet Anna Farisa's character, Cindy Campbell, who's meeting up with her boyfriend, Bobby Prinz. And you get the scene where, you remember when, what was that? Oh yeah, Billy met Sydney, snuck into Sidney Prescott's home and when he first saw Sydney in the first Scream. It's kind of referenced like that, but when they try to have a little PG-13 love, she gets shocked because there's barbed wire thing in her crotch area, so can't go near there. But then even that one bit, like this one guy comes near, oh, wrong set, and then when Bobby leaves, he falls out the window, hurts himself. And then we meet some other characters. We meet Brendan Meeks, Ray Wilkins, Greg Phillippe, Buffy Gilmore, and Brendan Stoner brothers Shorty. And of course, like, these characters are also gold as well. Like, these guys get some funny moments. And there's new teams, like, there's this hack reporter, Gail Hailstorm, that's a parody of Gil Weathers. Like, a virgin on school because of Drew's murder. That Gail seduces Buffy's intellectual disabled brother, Special Officer Doofy, who's a parody of Dewey from the Scream films, to elicit information from him. And then, of course, this movie does concentrate mainly on Scream, and it does concentrate on I Know What You Did Last Summer, because those two are very relevant horror films around the time this had come out. The Wayans brothers really do well in creating this fine horror spoof. That actually is one of the last few funny spoofs we would get. There's hilarious moments. They're spoofing of stuff like non-horror stuff like The Matrix, Usual Suspects, and they're minor. They don't hog up the whole movie. Like, they're only minor, and these were times when you could get away with a parody of The Matrix. Because back then, before like The Matrix sequels came out, a lot of films were referencing The Matrix. Shrek referenced it. This film referenced it. A lot of comedies would parody a lot of the iconic sequences of the first Matrix film. And nothing here is serious, because it can't be serious. It's a parody movie. Why would a parody movie be serious? There's still quite a bit of a plot to provide some mild chills and many laughs. And it's a credit to Scream because Scream had an original entirely scripted screenplay that held up well. The humor in this one, the humor is vulgar and crude in this one. Like, there's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of sex. It's definitely not a parody film for younger audiences. No. This is, if you watch this film and if you have kids, you gotta definitely make sure they're in bed before you even turn this on. This is not a film to show them. No. Like, I remember, they tried to pop this on when I was kind of, like, more younger, and we thought maybe it'd be a harmless comedy. Then as soon as that first scene that's parodying Drew Moore's death happens, as soon as the opening scene starts, like, no, you're not watching this. Not appropriate. Shutting that off. Yeah. And watching this, and when I watched this later, I could definitely see why. Like, I wasn't allowed to watch this. Yeah. Good reason. And it still holds up, and it does hold up pretty well. It does make some lighter addition to some evening of horror comedy chillers, and that's the thing. Yeah, I mentioned that Scream was somewhat of a parody film-ish, because the thing is, Scream kind of ish was. it wasn't 100% parody film because it was still a horror film and Ghostface was on screen. But the thing is that Scream would reference other horror films. It would goofily reference like other cliches in horror films. They reference stuff like slashers. They reference plenty of other stuff, other horror cliches like with the killers. Like Bill and Stu even reference a lot of horror films, and Randy even references many horror rule cliches to survive a horror film. There were plenty of comedy parody scenes in the film, but it was still a horror film. It was still technically a horror film when it was basically Ghostface killing anybody on screen. That's when it was actually a serious horror film. That's one of the reasons why I actually did enjoy the first Scream a lot. This kind of takes things to the next level, and I really laughed quite a lot here. Like, some of the jokes do make more sense. Right there, like, this is back when parody jokes did make sense in films. Like, I mean, there are some jokes I don't like. Like, there are some explicit sex jokes that kind of gross me out in the film. Like, that's one of the problems I have with this film. Like, this film kind of gets over vulgar. And I don't mind some vulgar humor, but sometimes the vulgar humor in this film just gets kind of done a little bit to death. And eventually does get old, eventually, in the middle of the film. But at least the film's confident with the humor. And Scary Movie does have this. Scary Movie still has some moments that hold up well. Like, there's a scene with Brendan in the theater that holds up well. A lot of Anna Farise's scenes, and Anna Farise's character and performance in this film hold up well. Like, this is one of the funniest female characters in comedy yet. And this is definitely her best role yet. Like, a lot of her other roles don't really compare a lot to this character. Like, I mean, she did get some other roles. Like, there was the House Bunny, which was forgettable. What's Her Number was forgettable. What else was she in? Oh, she was brief bit in Brokeback Mountain. But, which I will admit she didn't do bad in Brokeback Mountain, but when it comes to her comedy stuff, like, this was kind of the only really comedy thing that really got her a lot of attention. Right there. And, like, yeah, like, alright. Sorry about that, but when it comes to, like, the references to famous horror films, many horror films that either got mixed results or got acclaimed results and developed a cult status over time, it really does suit a audience that's familiar with the film. So, the next day they all go to class, and one of them's like, "Oh man, I got a bunch of F's on my report cards." And you see a bunch of F's and a stamp that says "dumb," or I think it said "dumbass" or on the card, or there. And of course, they even talk about, like, their reference of when she and her friends actually killed man, running him over, and dumped his body in a lake, and Adam Freeze and the gang actually then make fun of the whole plot, because it's kind of referencing the plot of I Know What You Did Last Summer. If you're a horror movie, they probably got Jennifer Hughes Love Tits to play me, or get a bunch of people that were in their 20s and 30s. Which that got a laugh out of me. Yeah. And of course, then during class, he notices a killer watching from outside and receives on this note, "I know what you did last Halloween," and she imagines her and her boyfriend on this little picnic thing, but then of course there's another note that says, "No, you killed someone." Then after football practice, and Greg finds this photo of his small thingy on his locker saying, "I know it," and it's like, "Who did this? This is unacceptable." Thinks Ray took the photo so he confronts some of their friends. And when Cindy tries telling him to calm down, he beats her up. Yeah, of course. Right there when she tries convincing him to tell the police. But because Greg fears imprisonment for what happened they did the previous year, he beats her up. Just randomly. So, one character, Buffy, they have that beauty pageant later that evening. And the killer that murders Greg in plain view. And Buffy's like, "No, look up." And they think she's making up this whole thing because she's doing acting for her part. So they mistake her pleas for help as part of her reading. And she wins the pageant and forgets Greg. And when Sadie tries to remind him of Greg's like, "Fuck Greg, I won!" And Calvin, bitch. Then when Sadie's at home, that she takes a bath. And there's a bit of a cringy gag, when she's shaving her legs, and then puts the razor on her bare face and on her bare tongue. Thankfully, it's a comedy series, so there's no blood, but that was kind of a little cringy. And you then get a bit of a fart joke in the tub, which wasn't needed. Like, you did not need to do that. But then the killer shows up. He attacks Sydney while home alone because this is the parody of the scene when the Ghostface attacks Sydney Prescott when she was home alone that one night. There, and of course, when it comes like, take a guess where I am. You're behind the couch, I can see your feet. What? Ah! Alright, look away. And he tries hiding on the carpet, but he knows that's not going to work. And of course, he goes out behind the window curtain. Now turn around. But despite the fact it's obvious, though, Cindy actually decides that she can't see him. But then the killer then attacks Cindy. And when she runs up the stairs, she throws some stuff at him, a bike. Or what else did he throw them? Yeah, I remember a bike, and she throws her grandma at him. And then she pushed the piano all the way down. The piano hits the grandma. But then, of course, we all know this is the reference when Billy arrived at the house, but then he got arrested. So Bobby arrives and he's arrested after his cell phone, knife, and gloves fall out of his pocket. So Cindy spends the night at Buffy and Doofy's, then receives a call from the killer there. You don't get a parody of when Sidney Prescott punched Gail Weathers in the face on the first Scream. You don't get that here. But Scary Movie's a rare example of a parody movie in the 2000s that was actually funny. Many remember watching Scream right there, and if you're thinking you'd be watching a parody of a horror film, they obviously have seen kind of the original horror film at first, but that's the thing. Like, in order to kind of understand this film, you kind of have to watch Scream. You kind of have to know, I know what you did last summer. That might not sit well for those who haven't watched those films, and probably wouldn't know what those are if they had just watched this film right away. And this is the Ghostface killer that, while basically still killing a bunch of teenagers, this version of Ghostface that makes people fall on the ground pissing themselves. And, there's even times when it's Ghostface's masked facial expressions change. He'll change to a happy face. He'll change to a ton-out face. He'll change to a stoned face, even. Because there's just some bit where Ghostface actually takes a bit of weed with Marlon Wayans' character and his friends near the end of the film. And another one of my favorite comedy moments right there. Or whenever he's kind of calling Marlon Wayans' character on the phone, and then his friends keep interrupting the phone there, and he's just listening to the whole thing, and he keeps changing all the facial expressions. This is hilarious. This is another one of the best parts of the film. This is easily a funny version of Ghostface. Yeah, it's not an Oscar-worthy performance-full movie, but all the actors give such great comedic performances. Whether it's Anna Faris, whether it's Regina Hall, whether it's the two Wayans brothers, Sean Marlon Wayans. They're all funny in this film, and because the actors really seem like they really enjoy the roles here. They go 9 yards to gross out with many odd gags, and so the following days, Bobby is cleared of charges, released from jail. But then, of course, when in the lockers one day, Buffy then gets beheaded by the killer with the cleaver, and in a way, it's kind of like a reference to Tatum's death in Scream 1 when she gets killed in the garage as well. There's two versions of the scene, because they do the garage parody scene. But this is a parody of when, from Tatum's perspective here. Right there is when, can I be the helpless victim? And of course, that kind of the Ghostface parody stabs Buffy. Oh, I'm supposed to be bleeding. And then she just runs around, and the Ghostface killer's then of course, I'm going to break my own leg now. Still, the Ghostface parody character cringes at that. And of course, he's just tired of this rate and just cuts her head off with the cleaver. But then her head's still talking. And it's and it just puts their head in the lost and found. And still won't shut up. That's easily another one of the funniest parts of that film. It's easily Buffy's death. And one of the funniest deaths in horror. And of course, there's this one teacher that jumps off the school building, commits suicide. I can't take these damn teachers anymore. And of course, then that night, they Gil and her cameraman, Kenny, they go to this makeout spot to get a murder on camera. They film the Ghostface killer murdering this teenager named Heather. Then, so he doesn't like being on camera. Chases them into the woods and murders Kenny. And pretty much, This is a parody of the scene from Blair Witch Project when any of the three characters were running from the woods. And then, of course, you get this one other scene I don't like, which was disgusting, honestly. It's when our parody Gale gives this snot-filled apology to Kenny's family, which is a parody of which is a parody of the scene when Heather films a tear-felt apology to their families, which is kind of near the end of the film. And I will admit, as much as I'm not a big fan of the Blair Witch Project, as I will say that, I don't hate the film. I don't hate the Blair Witch Project. Because the thing is, I can see why it was successful. I can see why some people would love it. I can see why it scared a lot of people back when it first came out, because found footage wasn't really a thing around the time that a film came out, and we didn't have the internet. That's why it was a hit. Everyone thought it was real. Then the internet came out, and it turns out it wasn't real. But some people hate it now, but there are some, there's one YouTuber I like that still does like the film, but I think it's alright. I think it has some good moments. I think it has some I think it has good marketing. It had really great marketing. They did a good job of the marketing. The actors in Blair Witch do fine. What I will definitely say is the apology scene in Blair Witch Project was one of the best parts of the film. In fact, as you remember from my top 11 SAS horror movie moments list, I consider that one of the most heartbreaking scenes in horror. Because, you know very well that they're going to die at that rate. And you actually buy Heather's fear and tears in her voice. And it actually feels like you're watching an actual last few moments video of an actual person that died. It felt like you were actually watching somebody's last moments on camera. That's why the scene's so effective. That's one of the best. That scene kind of really makes the film well for me. It was a very heartbreaking moment. And so, Scary Movie has a pretty good plot. It kind of does Scream as the main plot, but also does I Know What You Did Last Summer as another part of the plot. It focuses its energy on Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. You forget its intentions, and you're able to sit back and enjoy the ride. And you have a very funny parody of Drew Barrymore's death scene in Scream. You have many other great moments of slapstick and crude slapstick. There's some sexual references I don't like. There are some that actually do make me laugh. So, now but thou, though, after the gross parody of the apology, you get, thankfully, but to me that is. I know I said I have a lot of other funny moments in the film, but this scene to me is easily the number one funniest scene of the film. This is my favorite part of this movie, because this often is how I kind of feel a lot about annoying cinema goers today. I think we can all relate to this. Ray and Brenda go to the movies, decide not to go to Cindy's party. They go to the movies to see Shakespeare in Love. And throughout the film, Brenda is being obnoxious to all the audience. She sneaks in food, sneaks in chicken, cooked chicken into the theater. And when Ray goes to the bathroom, he gets stabbed through his ear in a bathroom stall for a glory hole. Not by a knife, no, by something else. And of course, she's just being obnoxious, talking, yelling, no, don't do this. And they're all yelling, shut up. I have to deal with a lot of noisy movie theater patrons and a lot of damn movies I go to see. I can relate to this scene a lot. There's plenty of annoying cinema goers. Just take a look at the chicken jockey trend in Minecraft earlier this year. That. But, she gets so obnoxious to the point where she ends up spoiling the movie for them. And they're like, ugh. And eventually they can't take her shit anymore. And so they all stab her. And some other, audience members this is for ruining Schindler's List. This is for ruining all the Jackie Chan films. And this is for ruining Big Mama's House. And to be fair, Big Mama's House, I wouldn't care if she ruined that. The Big Mama's House sucks. I don't know why anybody would be mad at that she would ruin a piece of shit film like Big Mama's House. That one I could not care about. Big Mama's House sucks. Maybe she did you guys, maybe she did, whoever said that, maybe she did you a favor wrecking that film. Maybe she did anybody a favor wrecking that film. But they all stab her to death to finally silence her. And yeah, like that's my favorite part of the film. Whenever I think of which part makes you laugh the most in Scream Movie 1, it's this scene in the theater when Brenda's in the theater being so annoying to the point where the theater patrons can't take her anymore and they all stab her. Which is a parody of his opening scene in Scream 2 when Ghostface killed Jada Pinkett's character. So meanwhile, back to Cindy. She's having a house party, and you remember in Scream it was at Stu's house? This time Cindy has it at her own house. Because hoping for safety in numbers, but there's too many people around there and they kind of start wrecking the house. Then one friend of Cindy's gets killed in the parody scene of Tatum's death in the garage this time. This is the second time they parody the scene. And it kind of just, instead of like really just killing on the spot, it kind of destroys the whole entire garage. And then Cindy and Bobby reunite and they go upstairs and they make love. Eventually, while this is all happening, like, this is the love scene. That was a parody love scene between Skeet Ulrich and Neve Campbell at Scream 1. During that bit, the rest of the guests were watching a horror film downstairs. In this version, almost all the guests, like Shorty and his friends, are all getting stoned in the basement. And it's like you even get a parody, you know something? I see dead people. Man, this shit is awesome. And of course, like, they're all getting stoned, and so Ghostface parody arrives, he gets stoned with Shorty and his friends, and he's changing all the facial expressions on his mask, whether it's happy, whether it's stoned. It's like the mask is his face in this version. But while like at one point he's doing a stoned as hell rap, he accidentally kills all except Shorty. So after Cindy and Bobby have made love, the killer stabs Bobby and then disappears. Cindy grabs his gun from a drawer and Bobby falls, and Shorty comes up from the basement that warns about the killer, but Bobby shoots him. And of course it's a parody of like when Billy was revealed to be evil, revealed to be the Ghostface killer, actually was the Ghostface killer. And then Ray arrives on a scene that's parodying what Stu's reveal with the voice changer. At first it has a girl voice, but then it's like, surprise it, surprise. like you're like, this is actually a very gold reference right here. Like, this is a movie that, if you like smart comedies, like, this is a comedy you should stay away from if you want smart comedies, because this isn't trying to be a smart comedy. When the killer kills the characters, honestly, as not as funny as they are, you don't really care, because the characters are often pretty stupid at times, so they kind of bring their own deaths on themselves. A film requires you to leave your brain in the car and really, like, enjoy good, gross out fun, like right here, or leave your brain inside your room, or like, leave your brain in the car if you ever get home from work and want to pop on a dumb parody movie. And if it's this, right there, or leave your car, room, whatever, right there. And the comedy, like, yeah, it has some predictable comedy, but it's still very elegant about the way the Wayans really achieve the effect of the predictable comedy. Like, the unflinching style really gives a humorous, horrific substance to really fly well. And, like, Scary Movie does well in exaggerating the cliches that you see in horror films. Characters that are over the top intentionally. Like, Cindy here really is a good parody of the whole final girl stereotype, her interactions with the other characters, like the whole take on the mass killer trope, and at least in some really comedic situations. So, now we get on with the finale of the movie. So, how this all goes. Bobby and Ray then confronts Cindy in the kitchen, and they're only going to kill her and her father, and they're really just merely copying the real killer. And Bobby says that he's gay, but Ray denies that. And of course, then the plan backfires because Ray stabs and kills Bobby out of anger, because the reason why is because the Wayans brothers got canceled after 5 seasons. Like, the whole, like, Cindy's line of during this is great. You guys have seen too many TV shows. No. Watching TV shows doesn't make psycho killers. Canceling TV shows does. The Wayans Brothers was a good show, and we never got to have one final episode! And then the killer abruptly arrives and murders Ray. And then, of course, fights Cindy, like, with a Matrix-style fight, and then she kicks him out the window. But then the killer vanishes before the police can arrive to Cindy's upsetness, and then Cindy and the sheriff, then at the police station, they realize who the killer is. Like, David Keegan, the man the teens killed the previous year, was not the killer that came back for revenge, but it turns out the parody Ghostface killer is actually Doofy, and guess what? He was never disabled. He faked that. He escaped with the parody Gale, which is the ending to The Usual Suspects, and the sheriff and Cindy then find his equipment, and Cindy screams, "No!" and just stands there on the road for forever, and the car just runs her over. And that's how Scary Movie hilariously ends. Doofy turns out to be the real Ghostface killer, murders all Cindy's friends, and the two idiots trying to be him. It was working together with the parody Gale. And they get a post-credit scene where Shorty and his friends rob a convenience store. And, like, Shorty had recorded himself doing so, and they run out. That's the end of the movie. Now, do I have any bad qualities with the film? Yeah, I do. I would say Shorty at times does kind of get a little annoying. He's not in the movie a whole lot, though. Like, his line's like, I'm on TV. Okay, that does get a laugh out of me. I'll admit that. Like, the I see dead people line gets a laugh out of me. The part where he gets Ghostface high gets a laugh out of me. Some jokes, like, do fall flat. Like, some of the frequent sex jokes are a little disgusting. Right there. Like, some of the sex jokes are disgusting, but there are some jokes that are really great. The ending, well, is kind of clever. I'll admit that. But I kind of wish this was a parody film that didn't really end on a bad note. But thankfully, we have Scary Movie 2. It is what it is. So, other than those, Scary Movie 1, I think is a decently enjoyable watch. So, in the end, I would say Scary Movie is definitely stream online if you want to see a satire of the horror comedy Scream, and do see one of the few last fresh parodies out there. Anyways, that's it for my view of Scary Movie. We're going to rank Scary Movie. Here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see a parody on horror films that was back when they were fresh, and I would stream Scary Movie since it's not a legendary one though, and if we're going to rank Scary Movie, I'm going to give Scary Movie a 7 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up episode 1 of season 6, so you all know, next episode is going to be Scary Movie 2, and that one I definitely can't wait to talk about. Sorry to say that. Until then, that'll be it for this episode. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.